There's so many solid options for the Game Week 37 captaincy. I think there'll be a good spread of players, therefore there will be a decent chance that the effective ownership of your captain will be lower than usual, so this is a really good opportunity. Let's get straight into it and take a look at the shortlist. First up is Bruno Fernandes against Fulham at home. Fulham's defence has been poor recently, they've been conceding a lot of big chances at the back, they've been relegated, and the United talisman could capitalise on that. Second on the shortlist is Mo Salah against Burnley away from home. This used to be a difficult fixture, and it might well be with the fans back in the stadiums, but they concede a lot more goals now than what they used to. Plus it is a big advantage if Nick Pope doesn't play and Peacock Farrell does instead. Penultimately is Harry Kane against Aston Villa at home. Villa are another team that have seen a decline in defensive numbers recently. They've got Cash absent, and it looks like there's a small chance that Mings might be as well. And the last player on the shortlist is Mikel Antonio against West Brom away. West Brom have been shocking at the back this season, they've been relegated, and Antonio's got really good underlying stats, you'll see that later on in the video. Unfortunately, he does have the same disadvantage as Salah where he's up against the home fans, whereas Kane and Bruno have the advantage of playing in front of their home fans. A drawback for Bruno is that he's got nothing to play for. Salah will be very hungry, he's fighting for Champions League football and the Golden Boot. Harry Kane is also fighting for the Golden Boot. Spurs are highly unlikely to get Champions League football, so it looks like they're trying to secure a place in the Europa League, likewise for West Ham and Antonio. Now let's take a look at the all-important stats for this season. Surprisingly, Antonio takes the lead ahead of the big hitters on the non-penalty expected goals and non-penalty expected goal involvement overall. Not far behind him is Kane. He's delivering on his underlying stats more than anyone on the shortlist. In fact, he's averaging more than one return per 90 minutes. Salah's neck and neck with him for the goals, but he's quite far behind in terms of assists. Bruno's almost matching him for assists, and he's a bit behind on the goals. Salah's underlying stats are more promising than Bruno's. Don't forget that you get 5 points for a goal and 3 points for an assist for your midfielders. On that note, Kane and Antonio get 1 less point for a goal, and they don't have the potential to get a clean sheet point either. There is a reason why Antonio isn't delivering on his underlying stats as much as the other 3 players, and that's because of penalties. Bruno's on penalties for United, Salah's on penalties for Liverpool, and Kane's on penalties for Spurs, but I'm not quite sure about Antonio for West Ham. Moving on to the form over the last 5 matches, it's Antonio who takes the lead on the non-penalty expected goals and non-penalty expected goal involvement again. He's the only player on the shortlist that's expected to get over 1 goal involvement over the course of the last 5 matches. In fact, in that period of time, he's the only player that's averaging 1 return per 90 minutes as well. That's not to take anything away from Salah or Kane, because their non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90 minutes figures are almost 1 as well. In those last 5 matches, Salah's averaging nearly 1 return per game, and they're weighted heavily on goals. He's got the most goals per 90 minutes. Kane's averaging 0.6 goals per 90 minutes, and Bruno's averaging 0.5, which isn't anything special. In those last 5 matches, not only does Bruno average the lowest returns per 90 minutes, his non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90 minutes figure is just over 0.5, which is bad. Okay, so we know about the player stats, but what about the opposition's defence? Antonio has the easiest fixture by far this game week against West Brom. They've got the worst defensive numbers in the league this season. Their expected goals conceded per 90 minutes and goals against per 90 minutes figures are almost 2 per game. Salah's got the second easiest opponents on the shortlist in Burnley. They've got the lowest probability of obtaining a clean sheet this game week. They've got half the chance of Fulham and less than half the chance of the other 2 opponents as well. Despite West Brom's poorer underlying stats, out of all the opponents on the shortlist, they're just as likely to get a clean sheet than anyone, and I think that's down to West Ham's attack not being as good as the other ones. Bruno's opponents, Fulham, still have poor defensive underlying stats, and Kane arguably has the hardest fixture on the shortlist against Villa this game week, but bear in mind what I said earlier that Cash is absent from that Villa backline, and it looks like there's a small chance that Mings might be as well. So with that information, the Villa fixture is much more appealing than what it first seems. Based on the probability, Salah's got the best chance of returning overall. He's got the highest anytime goal scorer odds by 4% ahead of Kane, and he's got the highest anytime assisting odds by 2% ahead of Bruno. It's worth mentioning that Kane is only 6% behind on the anytime assisting odds as well. Salah tops the Fantasy Football Hub points projections by 1.1, whereas it's actually Bruno who tops the Fantasy Football fixed points projections by 1.4. Again, it's Harry Kane that's lurking in second place for both of these. Whilst Bruno doesn't have anything to play for, it's compensated with 5 resting days. Antonio gets practically 4 days of resting time, whilst Salah and Kane inconveniently get around about 3. Something that's worth noting as well is that Salah played 90 minutes in his last Premier League fixture, and prior to that he only got 2 days and 18 hours rest where he played 90 minutes again, so there are concerns whether he can play 90 minutes or not. Okay, so I've got the information that I need now, and I'm not going to beat around the bush. The first two players that I'm going to eliminate are Bruno Fernandes and Mikel Antonio. For me, they just don't compete with Salah or Kane this game week. I'm tipping this player as the best captain because he's been more consistent this season in terms of underlying stats and returns per 90 minutes. His expected stats over the last 5 matches are weighted more on goals than assists. His opponents are guaranteed to be missing at least one key defender, possibly 2. His points projections are good across the Fantasy Football Hub and Fantasy Football Fix websites. I think he's more likely to play 90 minutes than the other player due to the amount of resting time before the last fixture. And one of the biggest factors to consider is the fact that he's playing in front of his home fans whilst the other player is facing the opposition's fans. It's Harry Kane. I'm not going to lie, there's not much between Salah and Kane. I just think there's a big potential upside of the fans being there. If you enjoyed the video, please drop it a like because it really helps me out. If you need any help for Game Week 37, drop a comment down below and I will help you. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the last captain analysis video of the season.